Hey guys, just wanted to do a quick stream here about just an issue that came up as I was conversing on Twitter. Where else do ideas come from? And excuse me, I'm very tired tonight, so it's going to be low energy, unless people jump in the chat and get me riled up. That is not a challenge. I shouldn't have said that. Anyway, it's just interesting how I've been thinking about the fact that most people seem to hate centrists because when it comes to certain issues, some of you know, I am more of a centrist, like the border wall issue. Believe it or not, I'm a centrist. People tend to think that I'm extreme one way or the other. And it's like that on a lot of issues. And I noticed it when I got in a conversation this weekend with one of my siblings, actually. They were upset about, I think, a church group that was encouraging extreme modesty to the degree that boys and girls, young men and women, I should say, teenagers and young adults, that they should not hang out with the opposite sex. They went to this party where there was dancing, and it's like the young Christian men just didn't want to even approach the young Christian women to ask to dance, and the young Christian women were just like, oh goodness, no, we shouldn't even, it should not even have physical contact with someone of the opposite sex. That's horrific. And we were talking about this, and I said that's one extreme. The other extreme is what we see in the world today among so many young people of just free sex, free love, which results in all of this unwanted pregnancy and single motherhood and abortion crimes, abortion laws just to a ridiculous degree. And it's both, they're both extremes. The ideal is in the middle. And I think most people would say on that issue, yeah, the ideal is somewhere in the middle. You shouldn't be extreme in modesty to where you wear a burqa and a hijab and all of that, and men should never be with a woman. Now granted, I think in today's culture with the laws we have, it's wise for men not to be alone with a woman. I mean, that's just wisdom. That's self-protection, self-preservation. But as far as because you're afraid you will accidentally rape them, I mean, that's ridiculous. And for a woman not to be alone with a man because she's afraid, oh, he might rape me. I mean, that's again, most people would say that's ridiculous. You just protect yourself from a legal standpoint. But at the same time, just being promiscuous, just sleeping around all over the place, most people would say, no, that's not very smart either. You're going to get diseases, you're going to get unwanted pregnancy. The ideal is somewhere in the middle. And it's similar, I should say, on the border issue, because I was reading stuff about the wall and all of that. And I thought, I'm actually more of a centrist, because you have the extreme right saying we need a border wall, nobody comes in, unless the government does all of this stuff, and anybody that comes in without going through this huge massive process, oh, they should be shot on sight. I mean, and yes, the extremists will actually say that. I have had debates with people who say that anybody who crosses the border should just be shot on sight. Anyway, and then you have the other extreme that's just, oh, I mean, yeah, not just anybody should come, but everybody that comes should be exempt from our laws and all of this. And I'm like, no, if you cross the border, you are immediately subject to all of the laws of the nation. So if you break a law in this nation, I don't care how you were raised, I don't care what culture you came from, I don't care if that was acceptable in your culture and that was just totally normal and you didn't know any better. It doesn't matter. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. If you commit a crime here, you are subject to the laws here. You don't get deported. You commit a crime that warrants the death penalty. I mean, in Florida, where I live, we have the death penalty. So you commit a crime that warrants the death penalty, you die. That's it. There is no exportation. So, I mean, honestly, both sides hate me because you could say I'm a centrist. It's because basically my ideal falls somewhere between the two extremes. And I started thinking about this, and especially because there's one YouTuber that I enjoy, the Britisher is his name, and most of my viewers are going to know who he is because most of my viewers know me from Academic Agent Stream, and Britisher is always there if I'm there. Anyway, but he is condemned all the time for being a centrist. And I started thinking about it, like, why does everybody hate centrists? And I realized nobody hates centrists more than they hate the opposite extreme. In fact, they usually hate centrists slightly less than the opposite extremes. And I'm like, they don't hate people for being centrists. They hate them because they don't agree with their views. Just like you hate the opposite extreme because they don't agree with your views. I think that people hate centrists because you don't agree with their views. It's not because they're centrists. It's because you don't agree with my views. Anyway. Hey, chat's already coming. I've got to read over the chat to make sure that not to, never mind. Sorry. It's been a very long week, a long weekend. If anybody's watching that knows me in real life, you already know what's going on. So, but anyway, how was your day? Exhausting. Oh my goodness, it was exhausting. I could go into that, but it has nothing to do with the stream. So I don't know if you, I don't know if you want to hear personal stuff. The issue is the modern left has gone so far that the middle is the far right to them. Yes, that is true, but the problem is the modern right is the same. The modern right has gone so far right that the centrists are considered far leftists. I mean, most of my friends, you got to realize, I was raised conservative, Christian, hardcore, either Republican or no libertarians. Libertarians were leftists from the way I was raised. My family was so far right they didn't even vote because it's like this politics were, even democracy is evil. That's how far right they are. Now, they're not that way anymore. That was when I was young. But most of my friends are just, I'm talking very far right, either apolitical and they believe everybody is evil, or political but strong right. So I have very few friends that are far left. The few friends that I have that are leftists are people who were raised in this far right mindset and rebelled against it, and so went to the opposite extreme. Those are the only leftists I have as friends. I mean, other than people I've met recently. So yes, the far right is just as bad in condemning centrists. They hate the centrists because they consider them, still like soft left. The leftists will consider the centrists soft right. The right wingers, can't say they're rightist. I don't know what. Anyway, the right wingers consider the centrists to be soft left. It's kind of like when with the last election, everybody that voted Libertarian, all the Trump supporters are like, oh, if you vote Libertarian, that's a vote for Hillary. And all the Hillary supporters are, oh, if you vote Libertarian, that's a vote for Trump. It's like both sides look at the centrists and say, you're evil because you are not with us. They will say it's because you support the other side, but it's because they're not with us. Anyway, having a wall is also a centrist position. No, I don't believe that. Wait, I think you mean moat. I don't know if you're using text to speech, but I don't think you mean molt. Anyway, landmine with sonic depth sensors. Nah, yeah, whatever. I'm just not even gonna go there. I'm so tired. It's gonna be hard to rile me up, but again, that is not a challenge. I really shouldn't be saying this to my chat. My chat's sweet. I mean, unlike, I know it's funny, I watch other live streams and some people like their chat, some people don't like their chat. My absolute favorite YouTuber of all time, Teal Deer, he has a love-hate relationship with his chat. You should just watch his live stream just for his interactions with chat. It's great. I love it. Anyway, I've noticed people on both sides had, I'm reading the chat, by the way, this is not my words. I've noticed people on both sides had centralists because they feel like they can convince them, but don't, so they get frustrated. That's a good point. I think that everybody, sorry, I'm going to just, okay. Yeah, oh, whoops, hold on, I was gonna, this is one reason I don't try to read the chat while I'm talking. I get too distracted. But no, that's a good point. Both sides had centralists, whatever, because they feel like they convince them, but they don't, so they get frustrated. It's true. I think everybody wants to convince the other side, and if you see somebody that's too far from your position, you're not even going to try. You're like, oh my goodness, you're just too far gone. Forget this. I'm not even going to try. But if you see someone at the center, you think, oh, we agree on some issues. Maybe I can convince them. And unfortunately, I think a lot of centrists, or a lot of people who call themselves centrists will do so in an attempt to reach the other side. It's not that they actually believe in a central position. Well, and it's going to sound bad. It's not that there aren't centrists. There are so many people who are centrists, legitimately so, because again, they believe in the middle ground. I mean, I talk about the idea is, if you look at culture, if you look at religious interpretations, more like things like that. One thing my dad would always say, and it's not original, but I quote him, is the pendulum swings. And this is just the way it is with culture, with religion, with politics, with whatever. The pendulum swings. It goes to the far right, and then people are so upset with that, or I guess in your view, this is the far left, but it's from my right. I'm tired. Sorry. People get very upset with that. They're like, "Oh, this is wrong. This is wrong," and it's true. It is wrong because it's too far right. And then it swings back, and they say, "No." So they start pulling on it, but they don't stop, and it just keeps swinging until it goes to the far left. And then again, the majority of people are like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! This is wrong too." So far, start pulling the other way, and again, they just keep pulling. They don't stop, and so it just swings all the way to the far right, and it just goes back and forth. And ideally, you'd stop in the center, but that's not the way it works. It's not the way people work, because they're always like, no, no, this is wrong. We need to keep going. We need to keep going, until you get to the extreme where, again, most people are like, whoa, wait, what? Anyway, so yeah. When Liz is tired, she speaks faster. Yeah, I don't know. That would be interesting to check and see. I don't know. But yes, so it is the case, I think, that a lot of people who claim to be centrists are such just because they're trying to reach the extremes and trying to bring them closer together. Even if they hold positions that aren't necessarily centrist, they're just trying to pretend to be centrist in order to reach people from far apart. See, I don't think this is fast. And this is fast. Sorry, I am speaking very quickly, but I like it. It makes it easier for me. Moving on. Sorry, McCarthy's List. Yes, he's a good thinker. He tends to think out his comments and everything, but I'm sorry, I'm not doing a good job addressing it. Oh, is this argument ad moderatum? I don't know what that means. Oh, okay. Yeah, if I say 2 + 2 = 4, again, reading chat, sorry. I don't know how you give that disclaimer other than the fact that I'm not looking at the camera. This is not my words, I'm reading chat words. Anyway, if I say 2 + 2 = 4, someone else says it's 6, it doesn't mean you say it's 5. I agree. There are things where there is an absolute right and wrong answer. So something like, the difficulty comes when you're dealing with issues of morality. There, it's very difficult to find an absolute right or wrong answer. So I'll give you an example that everyone is going to think there's an absolute right and wrong answer, and I would say there usually is. Is it okay to kill children? And not even talking about abortion, I'm talking about children that are alive and well and healthy. You know, is it okay to kill children? Hopefully everybody would say, absolutely not, no. And then somebody, because you know there's people like this, because I'm kind of like this, although not on this issue, that's going to say, well, wait a minute, you're standing at a train track. You've all heard this before, hopefully, you know, and you have the lever in your hand that switches the tracks, and you've got 5 children on this side and 500 children on that side, all somehow on the tracks for whatever reason, because they're idiot children. They don't want to get off the tracks. They're little kids. Sorry, they're not idiots. They're just little kids. They're not smart enough. And the train's coming, and you can switch the track so that either 5 kids die or 500 kids die, which you do. And, you know, so in that case, like, oh, is it still wrong to kill children? Well, yes, it's still wrong to kill children, but, you know, so it's not really a fair example. But all that to say, yeah, you're going to have people saying that regardless. But issues of absolute, I hate to say absolute truth, because that's not quite what, that just has so many connotations with it. It's not conveying the correct idea, but something like that, 2 + 2 = 4, someone else says 6, doesn't mean it's 5. Now, I had a math professor who was awesome. He proved that 1 + 1 = 3, just because he used a mathematical fallacy in doing this proof that was so amazing, and it was so fun to watch, you know, because you didn't know where he was going until you get to the end and prove 1 + 1 = 3. I was laughing. The rest of the class was like, wait, what? I'm like, that is beautiful. I want to write it down, because it's like a joke for math people. It was hysterical, because that was the punchline when he got to the end. If you can actually follow it, it was the funniest thing. And I wish I'd written it down. I didn't, so I don't have it. But anyway, other than that, other than essentially humor, no, when you have something that is manifestly observable, for lack of a better term, that is provable, essentially, 2 + 2 = 4, it's always going to equal 4. And I know people could, short of jokes, you can't make it equal something else, but something, the question of morality. So going back to the beginning of what I said there with modesty, what is proper modest dress? Most people would say you should not walk around in public with no clothes whatsoever, especially if there are children. That is totally inappropriate. And in most places, at least in America, it would be illegal. It'd get you arrested. So it's not only immoral, it's illegal. And so most people would say there has to be some very basic form of modesty. But again, vast majority of people in America would say the hijab and the burqa and all of that, no, that's going to the opposite extreme. That's silly. You don't need to just be completely covered from head to toe in a shapeless bag. That's too far. I have friends and family who would say that jeans are immoral. They're immodest on both men and women. They reveal too much. You should not wear jeans. I don't agree with that. I wear jeans all the time. You know, but then where is the balance? There is no right and wrong answer when it comes to something as subjective as modesty. Any moral issues, right or wrong, because like it or not, modesty is a moral issue. It's not a physical issue. If you walk around with no clothes on, you are not actually physically harming anyone. Now, there may be, I mean, yeah, there may be psychological harm, but that's not measurable. You can't prove you harmed anyone. So that is a 100% moral issue. It's not an economic issue in any way, shape, or form. There is no hard right or wrong answer. So. And that's an issue where I feel like the ideal is a centrist. It's, you don't need to be covered from head to foot in a shapeless bag. You also shouldn't be walking around with nothing on. You need to have a happy medium there, or a healthy medium there. So, excuse me, and where that medium falls is the question. So yes, when you say, oh, not everything can be a centrist issue, yeah, I agree, not everything can be, but generally speaking, most things are. So, Dean, you're mean. Okay, that was not meant to rhyme. Never mind. Yeah, there's no point in having leftist friends. The leftists would say the same thing. I actually had somebody block me on Facebook because they were attacking Trump supporters just by calling them mean names. And I'm not, or I used to dislike Trump. Now, I am still right-leaning in my politics, very much so. I mean, as compared to leftists, I'm very right-leaning. Some people would call me far-right. I think I'm not far-right, but anyway. But I'm definitely right-wing. Now, I did not support Trump. And this, shortly after his election, I still didn't like the guy. Now, he's done a lot now that I actually do like a lot that he's done. I still don't like a lot about him, but I like a lot that he's done. And obviously dislike a lot that he's done. But shortly after the election, I was not happy that he was elected. I was very happy Hillary was not elected, don't get me wrong. But I was like, I kind of wish it had been somebody other than Trump. And I didn't want him to be elected for a second term. I was hoping that he wouldn't win the primary. But anyway, a leftist friend of mine was attacking all Trump supporters, everybody who supports Trump, would just name calling, just being mean. And I said, look, if you do this, he's definitely going to be elected a second term. Don't do this. You need to actually reason with people. You need to explain, why do you not support Trump? And I'm like, I don't support Trump, and here are my reasons. Give reasons. And she got so angry with me. I said, no, all Trump supporters are complete idiots. And I just going off on this rant with name calling and everything. And I'm like, you're not going to win everybody over. In fact, you're going to make them further on their position. She blocked me. So yeah, you say there's no point in having leftist friends. It depends on the leftists. I think you can actually reason with some of them. Same thing with, I'm a member of the Liberalists USA, and we had a discussion when they were like, okay, anybody that's far right or anybody that's alt right, we need to just block them immediately. Don't even talk to them. And I'm like, no, try talking to them, because some of them are alt right just because they see no other option, because they have legitimate reasons that they're upset about this and that, and they're reacting. And yes, their reactions are way out of proportion and they're going way too far. But if you actually talk to them, some of them can be, I hate to use the term, but converted, for lack of a better term. So yeah, I said there's nothing wrong with talking to alt-right people, because there was actually somebody in the Liberalists who was had ongoing conversations with the alt-right, and other people in the Liberalists said, we need to ban them from the Liberalists. They just can't, if you even talk to alt-right, we need to just ban you. I said, whoa, no. So saying that there's no point in having a leftist friend, no, when you cut off all lines of communications with someone because of their political position, I mean, that's just, I'd say that means you're an extremist. Don't do that. I mean, well, it's understandable if you can't have some conversations. I mean, if you watch my last video, I can't converse with people on abortion. I get way too emotional, and I was not as emotional in that video. If you watch it, yeah, I even said that. I'm like, this is me calm on this issue. Obviously, it was me very upset, but it was me on that issue. I was comparatively calm. So there are some topics I can't discuss, but there's nobody with whom I won't have a conversation. It's just there are certain topics I can't discuss. And it's not that I don't think they should be discussed. They should be. It's just I can't discuss them. Anyway, time for radical centrists. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Oh, thanks. Oh, yeah. My chat is sweet. Yeah, it's like all 8 of us. Thanks. I know. Anyway. Oh boy. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So Michael Kelly in chat makes a good point where he says centrist has become a world meaning not authoritarian, be it right or left, which is good. I need to think about that more. I don't mind going into it a little bit, but that's a good point, because both the far right and the far left are essentially authoritarian, at least nowadays. It's just the far left wants government to be nanny state, mommy state, daddy state, just take care of us and provide everything for us, whereas the far right says, well, we want you to be our hired guard just protect us and our property from anything and everyone, and I don't care about anybody but me, you know. And again, I'm talking far right and far left, by the way, and I feel like the closer you get to the center, the further away you get from those, but it's still generally the same. The left tends to want, you know, more welfare programs, and the right tends to want more military or police power used against people I don't like, essentially. But not people I don't like, but people who could potentially threaten myself and my income, to the degree that it eliminates competition. The far right does essentially just eliminate competition. If you go far right, like an alt-right, and I count them as like the farthest right, they literally want to eliminate free speech because they don't want competition. And the further right you go, it's like the less competition they want. The further left you go, the less responsibility they want. So I mean, that's why I have problems with both sides. I agree with both sides on some issues, and I disagree with both sides on some issues. Yeah, like, anyway, because I agree with freedom and responsibility, but anyway. Okay, at this point, I'm just answering things. I'm just addressing to the chat, by the way, so I kind of presented my opinion. So if you're watching this after the fact, then we're just having a discussion at this point. If you're still watching live, hey, talking to chat, having fun, because I'm tired, and I don't want to have to, anyway, okay. I could get back to the title. Somebody just needs to ask it in chat. What'd you say? Do you think the right and left are so far away from each other that the only way they can calm down is by war? No, no. I think that too often throughout history that is the case. I guess I was telling who was saying what, whatever, I don't care. But if you, in case you care, Hagnar the Viking, he's like, yeah, do you think the far right and far left are, or far, sorry, he didn't say far. Do you think the right and left are so far away that the only way they can calm down is by war? And no, you have people who are convinced. I'm going to give two examples because I feel like the majority of my viewers are American, but I could be wrong. And the majority of Americans at least claim to be Christian. So I'm going to give a Christian example. Most of you guys will get this. The Apostle Paul. He was, and if you don't believe in the Bible, give me a minute. I'll give you another example. The Apostle Paul was, I mean, he was literally a murderer. Vision from God changed him completely. He became a Christian. Okay, anybody can be converted, for lack of a better word. Again, well, I mean, obviously in the religious sense, that's the word you use. But even people on the far right or the far left, they can be convinced. They can have their eyes opened, so to speak. So it can be the case that you would have. Again, I'm going to be using a lot of religious terms just because I don't know the better term for it. But you can actually have revival of reason. Again, for lack of a better term, you can have that. You can have people convinced by truth, not necessarily by evidence. And that's because people just, so many people think, oh, if I just present the right evidence, people will be convinced. No, they're just not going to accept your evidence. I don't care what it is. And I've had discussions with people where I'll show newspaper articles, I'll show videos and like, oh, that was doctored, you know, it's a doctored video and the newspapers, the news article is false. I'm like, no, it's not. It's real. I mean, think about the issue with, can't remember the guy's name, the CNN reporter who pushed the woman away from him. And the video that came out was slightly slowed down. So it actually made it less violent, in my opinion, than it was. And I did a video on him. I can't remember the guy's name. Anyway, if you can look back through my videos or whatever, it's not irrelevant. It's not relevant. But this CNN reporter holding the mic, talking to the president, and the intern came up and was like trying to take the mic away because the president's like, hey, you talked enough, shut up, give the mic to somebody else. And he just pushed her away very, I mean, gently, comparatively speaking. You know, he wasn't rough with her, but he did physically push her away. And so many people on the left are like, oh, that video was doctored. It's not real. He never touched her. Like, look at the video. He literally pushed her away. Now, granted, he did not use a lot of force. He was not violent in any way, but he did push her. I mean, well, okay, if you watch my video for the detailed analysis, but whatever. Anyway, people are going to say, oh, you're contradicting yourself. You get my, you get what I'm saying, hopefully. If you don't, why are you watching? Because never mind. Anyway, but all that to say, evidence is not going to convince anybody, no. But even, or I shouldn't say that, evidence is not going to convince everybody, no. But that's not to say that nobody can be convinced. There are people who can be convinced. You can talk to them. So no, we absolutely do not need war. Unfortunately, a lot of people just don't want to be convinced. They just don't want to talk. So it is possible that war will be the outcome, but it's not necessary by any means. I hope that we don't have that. I don't want to see war. No, I think that's a horrible answer. It may happen. Yeah, But I mean, and if it comes, I would never, I would not be a soldier, but I'll defend myself. So yeah. Anyway, okay. What's he say? Oh, well, whoops, sorry. Chad just jumped. No, yeah, this is your issue using Facebook. I have not been on Facebook and I don't know how long. My siblings have been trying to reach me on Facebook, and I'm like, why are you? I don't get on Facebook. Text me. I don't get on Facebook. I'm on Twitter more often than I'm on Facebook. And if you follow me on Twitter, I'm not on Twitter that often. It's terrible. Okay, I'm sorry. People have been talking to the chat. I'm just, and it's not updating properly for me, so I think I missed a lot. So sorry if I skipped your comments, but whatever. Yeah, it's like, you better be joking. I don't know what it was. Dean, what was I joking about? What do you, what's he say? Oh, civil war is not necessary. It's just the easiest option. And then he says, you better be joking. Okay. I don't know if you're talking about war, then go for it. Dean, if you want to clarify. Anyway, because I don't know what you mean by that. Oh, okay, that's a good question. Why have fixed principles when the world is constantly changing around you? No, principles need to be fixed. I don't care if the world is changing. Think about the way feminism is changing now. Probably most of you have heard the story. If you haven't, then go on YouTube, and I think Sauron just did a video. I don't know if anybody else has, but I've seen it on Twitter also. There was a lady who, strong, hardcore feminist, I'm guessing the man-hating type. I haven't looked into it, but a lot of the hardcore feminists really, they do hate men. And I think some of them is just because they're just misled. They think, oh, men are stronger than women, so they see them essentially as predators, kind of like a sheep would see a lion. They're like, oh, all lions are evil because they eat meat and we can't, it's just natural in them. So a lot of feminists look at men and they know men are naturally stronger, and so they just decide that men are the predators and we are the prey. There's nothing we can do, and so they hate men. And I mean, not all, but I think that some women just are like that. They're just misled. I don't think they're evil. There's a video that was answering Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth, and it says, not evil, just wrong, and essentially saying, Al Gore's not evil. He's just wrong. And so I think a lot of feminists are like that also. So I prefer to give this woman the benefit of the doubt. I don't know much about her, but from my guess is that she doesn't like men. Again, and I'm just going to assume it's because she sees them as predators and herself as prey, and so she's more like scared of them. It's not because she's an evil person. I could be wrong. But anyway, she doesn't like trans women. I have to think about it because I get them mixed up all the time. But a man who says he's a woman now, and she's like, no, you can't be a woman, because I mean, essentially, to a woman, a feminist like that, like what I just described, assuming that she has that case, then yeah, she doesn't care what you call yourself. It's what hardware do you have? He's still a man. Biologically, he still could go rape a woman. He still is physically strong, and calling himself a woman just allows him access to women's spaces, essentially makes him more dangerous in her mind. Again, if she thinks like this, and maybe she doesn't, I don't know. But for my argument, I'm going to assume she does. And so she was, I guess, arguing with this guy on Twitter. And again, I haven't read the tweet, so I could be misrepresenting this, and called him a man, said, no, you're not a woman, you're a man. She was arrested. She was apparently, police came and arrested her in front of her kids, dragged her off, and are investigating her. She might go to jail. That she was released after like 7 hours or something, I think. So I mean, it was a big deal. Now, so at this point, at least this is in Great Britain, by the way, this is not America. We're not that far yet. But in Great Britain, they're going further and further and further to the left as far as that goes, identity politics. So to say, oh, we shouldn't have fixed principles because the world is constantly changing. No, I don't care if the world is constantly changing. You don't change your principles when the world is changing. Otherwise, it's kind of like, what they say, the Overton window. Oh, the Overton window is shifted. That doesn't mean reality has shifted. It means our perception has shifted. Reality doesn't change, despite what a lot of people are going to want to say. And if you think that reality does change, you know what? Yeah, you're not going to like me. So I don't know why you'd watch. But anyway, actually, I do. I know, because I watch people I don't like. Regardless, that's not the point. But no, I think we do need to have fixed principles, which is one reason I advocate principles that are written down. And so many people want to say that, oh, we need to adjust our principles as the world changes. No, we don't. No, we don't. If your principles change as the world changes, what problem do you have to that country that, as several people just did a video about recently, where women are, if a man wants to marry a girl, what he does, he literally kidnaps her, brings her to his house, where the women in his life force her to marry him. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with pedophilia? If you agree that, and I've heard, there's a certain YouTuber that I used to follow. I used to love his videos, and I still like some of his videos. I'm not going to give his name because I don't like to give names to people I don't like, and I still kind of like them a little bit. But where he actually argued that pedophilia might be okay. And he said that he absolutely thinks it's repulsive, it's horrific, and he's just disgusted with it. All these people who are trying to push it is okay. But he had to admit that if enough people accepted it to where the majority of society said it was okay, then he would have to say it's okay because he believes that whatever the majority believes is moral. Like, that's disgusting. That's horrific. That is saying, and I think he did actually address the issue of slavery, because people would say, wait a minute. I mean, think about slavery. Chattel slavery, by the way, not just, anyway, because there are different views. And if you heard me talk, you know, there are different views. But chattel slavery on racial lines, and which I'm totally opposed to, regardless of the situation. But, you know, and he even admitted that it was possible that that is moral at a time when the majority of people accepted it. No, when you say, oh, if the world changes, your principles should change. No, that means you have no principles. That means nothing is right or wrong. And then, I don't know, maybe you believe that. So anyway. Oh, and I just realized Dean's comment, you better be joking, came right after that. So hopefully, maybe he's addressing that, not me. Anyway, okay, Dean, what's he say? Oh, yeah, okay, so it looks like he was addressing that. Joking comment wasn't for you, it was a change. Oh, yeah, see, okay, just talking to Dean. I think I did a better job than answering than you, but you're not live stream anyway. Okay. Yeah, McCarthy's list, he says, I changed an alt-right neo-Nazi's worldview just by asking one question. I'm tempted to make a joke about what question did you ask almost. After him complaining for 30 minutes about Jews running the banks, I simply asked, would you want a Nigerian to run them? Nice. Okay. I don't know if that was meant to be a joke, but thank you. That's great. Okay. Sorry, looking at the chat again. Yeah. Reality changes too, but really slowly. I don't agree with you. I don't agree that reality changes. I agree that mindsets change, people change, culture changes, but reality doesn't change. Is 2 + 2 ever going to equal 5? If you say no, you have to admit reality doesn't change. And it's an interesting, there's actually a theological book that a friend lent to me that was pretty cool, and talking about math. It said that math is the language of God because it's an absolute. Even people, because most people who don't believe in God will have to say there is no absolute truth. Truth is whatever you make of it. Some don't, but most will say that things change, even including reality. And it's like, well, math doesn't change. Math never changes. It has never changed throughout all of history, throughout all of the future. Math just doesn't change. And so it's interesting that a lot of people, well, not very few people, because not many people major in mathematics, but interestingly enough, there are Christian mathematicians who will say that, oh, math is the language of God because it never changes. It's part of it, you know. Anyway, sorry, I'm not getting into theology in the stream. Well, not planning to, trying not to. And I know you weren't trying to bring that up, but you said reality changes and somebody else brought up math, so it wasn't technically me. Chad did this. Not my fault. Moving on. What's he say? I don't know what that, yeah, okay. Yes, Dean, very good, very good. Okay. I don't agree with it. Okay, Hagnar makes a comment. Yeah, and again, I'm sorry. If you're watching this after the fact, I'm just going to talk as long as chat's interacting. As long as chat's saying interesting stuff, I'm going to talk until I get more time. I'm so tired. I need to end the stream soon. It hasn't been going that long, though, has it? I don't even know how long it's been going. Regardless. But yeah, Hagnar says, we stopped slavery because it's cheaper to pay workers next to nothing and throw them in a factory than feeding a person and paying someone to stop them from running off. I know a lot of people will say that it was stopped over economic reasons rather than moral reasons. But I don't agree with you there. I think that it would have stopped over economic reasons. You're absolutely correct. It was a dying system, and yet it wasn't. It was becoming less and less feasible economically, especially with inventions of like the cotton gin, things like that. There were so many things that would have eventually phased out slavery. But if it was if it was stopped over economic reasons, we never would have had a war. Excuse me. And even in England, they didn't have a war. It was William Wilberforce. And someday I might talk about him. That's another guy that just, oh, he annoys me to no end. He did good and he did bad. Guess what? He did both. And so many people just idolize him, like, oh my God, is he so amazing because of these good things he did? And I'm like, you know, the bad things he did too. It's like, oh, what are you talking about? No, he was perfect. He was pure. Saint Wilberforce, like, you're an idiot. But anyway, moving on. I believe that slavery would have died out because, yes, it's not economically feasible, at least, or it was becoming less and less economically feasible. However, that is not how it stopped, at least in the Western world. It was stopped. It would not have had to have been stopped via legal means. We would not have had to pass laws if it was just phased out because of economics. We definitely would not have had a war if we wanted to phase it out because of economics. It was totally the moral arguments, at least in the West, in England and in America, it was phased out because of people saying this is immoral, this is immoral, this is immoral. It was not economic. It would have died out because of economics, but that's not why it was ended. So when you say we stopped slavery, no, that's not why we stopped it. It would have stopped because of that, but that's not why we stopped it. Anyway, yeah, I'm not going into the Civil War, so you can make comments about that, but I'm not going there. I mean, other than what I just did, yeah. Reality doesn't change, but our own reality will change. No, no, no. Our perception of reality will change. Our concepts will change. Our, what's the word? Our view on reality, our reaction to reality, that will change. Reality doesn't change. You know, what color is my hair? That's reality. It is turning gray. Does that mean reality is changing? No, it means my hair color is changing. The hair itself is changing. You know, the hair that's already brown, it's, well, I guess, okay, that's a bad example. Anyway, my eyes are changing. Guess what? They get worse as I get older, which is very sad. I don't like that. But that's not reality changing. That's my body is changing, you know. So it's not, if you say, oh, here's my prescription. Oh, wait, my prescription changed. No, my eye has changed over time. But at this point in time, here's my prescription. You go forward in time. You can't look back and say, oh, your prescription was something it wasn't. No, it wasn't. It was what it was. And now it is what it is. It's not, I mean, it doesn't change. No, this is, yeah, this is red. For those of you who are colorblind, sorry, bad example. But, you know, this is red. That doesn't change. My perception might change. If I was to go colorblind, now it doesn't look red. It doesn't mean it isn't red. It just doesn't look that way. So your perception of change, of reality may change, but reality does not change. Oh, yeah, no, not falling for that. Anyway, okay. Anyway, that's all. I just kind of wanted to, I know, this wasn't one of my normal videos, but I'm just so tired, so exhausted about this. But yeah, just wanted to kind of just throw that out there. I'm not understanding this last comment. I don't know what you mean by IRA, because that means something different to me. Than IRA means individual retirement account. So I'm guessing it means something else to you, I assume. Anyway, moving on. Okay. So this is probably, I don't know if this is a shorter stream or not, because I don't know when I started. But thank you, chat, for participating. Thank you, anybody who watches. Sorry, this is not my normal stream. I'm tired, but hope you have a great day. And just, I guess, if you're still watching, think about what I said at the beginning, because this was about what I said at the beginning. Centrists. Why do people hate centrists? It's not because they're centrists. It's not because they're fence sitters. I mean, people want to say, oh, join a side. No, I mean, that's not. Granted, there are some people who just refuse to take a position on anything, but I don't consider them centrists. I just consider them, I don't know, something else. I need to think about what I don't know what the word would be. But people who have a position that ends up being between extremes, don't hate them for having a position that's between the extremes. I mean, so many people just hate them because they're not at their position. And they say, it's okay for me to hate you because you are not one of the extremes, even though I'm not actually going to word it that way. But if somebody has a firm position, and don't justify your hatred of them because of some totally outside reason, when in reality you hate them just because they're not on your side. And I just feel like that's so often the case. People are just, they hate them and they justify that hatred by saying, oh, it's because you're centrist. No, it's just because it's so many, and again, it might be because you just hate centrists, but so many people, it's just because you're not actually on their side. So that was the point. Oh, that's, before you go show the dragons, hang on. Let me see. I do have one down here. So. Hey, girl. Okay. Oh, she doesn't want to come on. She's actually mad at me. All right, just real quick. Hey, it's okay. Hey, you want to say hi? This is the baby. She's not social, and she got upset with me for picking her up. I don't know if you can see her. She's actually small for a bearded dragon. She's small. Hey, baby. She's almost full grown, but not quite. Hey, what do you think? Nope. Nope, she's in a bad mood. What you got on me there? Okay. But yeah, say hi. Okay, anyway, thank you. Oh yes, I'm wearing an apron. I was doing dishes and cooking earlier, so yes, and I didn't feel like getting changed. Yes, I'm wearing an apron. Anyway, I do like being in the kitchen, not because and that's nothing to do with far right or whatever, anything like that. It's because I like. People have said, do those things carry salmonella? Some people have said that don't kiss your dragons because you can get salmonella. I'm like, I don't. If people kiss their cats and dogs, I think that's disgusting because they have fur. But anyway, regardless, anyway, y'all have a good evening, and I will talk to you guys later. Thanks.